Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. Another Friday morning here in the books. And exciting times. I'm super excited to bring on our guest for today, a great friend of mine, and she's surviving some weather right now. So let's bring on, without further ado, Miss Chanel Hart-D'Aprix.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Hey, Jimmy.
Good morning. Great to see you this morning. I'm so happy you were able to join me this morning and be on here and this weather. Like what's happening down there?
Hurricane Helene, they are no joke. So, Ford and I, we lived in South Florida for a long time. And when they come in hard. And so we're in Chapel Hill, North Carolina now, and it is barreling up and over. My kids are asleep upstairs. So let's have some fun this morning, Jimmy. It's hurricane party already.
Well, see, because you did spend time in Florida, so like this whole hurricane thing, that doesn't bother you, right?
It really doesn't. And I grew up in Oklahoma, so tornadoes, hurricanes,
Yeah, it's kind of like you in business, though, right? Like this is Chanel and
naturally attract these things to me. What can I say, Jimmy?
Well, that's because you're always moving, right? That's because you're always moving and doing stuff and busy, and so maybe it's it's not global warming. Maybe it's the Chanel effect that we're having.
Obviously.
Yeah.
In a very positive way.
Obviously, yes.
So how have you been, friend?
I've been good. Busy, doing a lot of things and making a lot of moves, but I've always said, like, I've been busy and I've been unemployed, and I prefer busy.
I agree. I mean, we're coming in the fourth quarter. 2024 has been a very interesting year.
Yeah, it has been a very interesting year. I feel like it was a good bounce back year for a lot of people.
I agree.
2023, I feel like, the end of 22 with rates going up, and 23 with rates staying at, 7-8% wherever they were at. I feel like it affected a lot of people's business. And I know it was a big thing for you because now you being part of Cheviron Coaching.
Yes.
Right. And again, such a needed thing. And Austin and Nate, shout out to Austin and Nate, good guys. And so what's that experience been like for you to be with those guys?
So I always say they're my brothers from another mother. So it's funny. It's in Michigan where Austin and I originally met. And he tells the story a little better than I do, but he thought I was a wallflower, and he thought I was a very quiet person, very passive, uncomfortable in social situations. And so the very first thing, though, is that Brooke and Marissa, who were with Kurt, they said, Chanel, come up, let's speak. It's going to be amazing. And so I was excited. I had 72 slides that I was going to speak about in 20 minutes. And so when Austin asked Brooke, who is this Chanel? And are you kidding me? 72 slides? That's a no. Tell her to make them less. And so Brooke says, can we just reduce it? I'm like, absolutely not. So, Austin and I started like this without even knowing it.
That doesn't sound controlling like Austin at all.
Oh, no, not at all. What I love and what we have in common is that Austin and I are both utilitarians. And so we're very mindful of time. And so he thought, she's going first. She's going to knock off the entire day and in the cadence of the time. I will tell you, I got through those 72 slides. I think you were present in 20 minutes, and it was amazing. And so it was really good.
Yeah, I was present, and it's funny. So I'll give you some. This is a secret about Austin too. So Build this year here in Detroit, Austin threw us completely off of time because he went overtime.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did Austin do? I didn't hear that, Jimmy.
Yeah. So you'll have to have a conversation with Kurt about this too, because now Kurt, who we know doesn't follow time restraints at all.
He does follow his heart, Jimmy. That's what I love about Kurt.
He does. It is always from the heart. He wears his heart on his sleeve, but not on his watch. But Austin like blew our time this year at Build on day 2. So
after we met together in Michigan, we just realized that we truly did have a lot in common. And I was really going through some shifts and changes in my life and my business. And so I reached out to Austin and I said, Austin, I would really love some counsel. I'd love some mentoring. And I decided to sign up for his teams program. He and Nate are phenomenal when it comes to really training teams, going in. And they had me look at things that as many years as I've been in real estate, I never looked at. Really look closely at your culture. really look closely at what your ICA says, really look closely about what your mission statement is. It should be no longer than one sentence, and really mean it when you write it and when you say it. Little things that just help me align everything that I knew, but I needed to put it all in one place. And so we always say that I tend to speak to people, a different group than Nate speaks to, than Austin speaks to. So when we bring our 3 superpowers together, I feel like we're able to spread the joy, the love, business practices to a larger range of real estate agents. So that really helps all of us.
I love that. I love that. And it does, because I know the 3 of you so well. I know how well that puzzle piece fits together.
Yes.
I can see that, how that balancing act works, and how those things fit together. So I'm super excited. And if you haven't checked out Cheviron Coaching, and I'll shamelessly plug it. Austin was on with me a couple weeks ago. But if you haven't checked out his wealth program that he's just launched, oh my gosh, it really makes you look at a lot of things. And Austin sparked something with me, because I have a 20-year-old. Austin's like, he needs to be in it.
Yep.
And I was like, he doesn't have any money. He goes, exactly. That's exactly the reason he needs to be.
But imagine if we went through this in our 20s.
Oh.
So my oldest is almost 23, and he said the same, because friends are family to Austin. And so he said, August really should go through this. Good Lord, if I would have gone through this when I was 22, 23, my bank account would be much heavier than it is now, for sure.
Yeah. 100%. And I think the same thing. I just had an agent that joined our team. She's 19. She just got her license. She's 19 years old. I'm like, if I would have, like, again, knowing that now, what I know that, like, if I knew then what I know now. Yeah. Right. But yeah, how much different things could have been. But now I am a firm believer. I'm always a firm believer, and everything happens for a reason.
Always.
It's like the life lessons we learned along the way are now allowing us to teach other people to not fall in those same pitfalls and speed bumps and all the things.
I'm sorry, we have a special guest, Jimmy.
All right.
This is my little Preston. We're on a live podcast
What's up,
right now,
buddy?
so I need you to say hi to everybody and head on out.
Hi, everybody.
You're on with millions and millions of people.
Hi, millions of people. Okay,
So-
bye, guys.
No school today because of the hurricane, so North Carolina's out.
Well, and we're in Detroit, so you people that are in Detroit now I do have some listeners that are down in Florida, so I'm hoping everybody in Florida is okay.
I really do hope everybody's okay. I say it weekly, sadly, but hurricanes are no joke, friends. If you're in an area where the hurricane's coming through, do not try to go out. Don't get your bread and your milk right now. Just stay where you are. Be mindful of each other. Check in on your loved ones, please.
I do. So I lived in Atlanta for a few years in my younger days.
Hot Atlanta, here we go.
Yeah, Atlanta was a great time. But I will tell you this: growing up in Detroit and then living in Atlanta, the day we got snow in Atlanta, and I just got up, brushed my truck off, and went to work. I was working at Foot Locker, so I brushed my truck off and went to Foot Locker to the mall, and there was no one there. And I was like, "Where is everybody? What's going on?"
Oh my gosh!
Everything was shut down. Being from Detroit, the only 2 people that showed up to the mall that day were me and another guy from New York. Like, we were the only 2 that showed up, because we were like, where is everybody? Why is everything shut down?
So we learned with the hurricane, you always have small bills in a secure space in your house, just in case. I can literally remember everything went out and I had to walk a mile to put gas in a gas tank. So always have a plastic gas tank with you. I mean, there are just certain things that stay with you after you go through, living through hurricanes for years.
Yeah. The thing that I could never figure out is, like, why does everybody buy bread and milk?
This I don't understand, because they're not going to stay, like, especially the milk. If you don't have electricity, that milk's going to last you that day, maybe. Right.
But the bread would be gone. Like, the bread would be completely sold out. I'm like, is there a bread shortage that I don't know? Like, what is happening?
We used to put the water hose out, Jimmy, in the heat in South Florida. And then, because that's the only way we could get hot water for like 2 seconds. The things you learn. So, yeah. So I hope everybody down in Florida is good. I hope you guys are good. That it's nice. The kids get a day off school. It's a Friday, a little long weekend. They're loving it.
Yeah, good for
Go
them.
back to 2024. It's been a very interesting year for many people. So, Jimmy, what are you seeing? What are you seeing with 2024?
Yeah, and I knew we all kind of knew this, right? The forecast 2024, we all kind of saw what was going to happen. It's an election year, right? And in election years, historically, we always know that rates drop.
Yes.
Everybody's trying to save their job, so rates magically start to drop, and the economy magically starts to get better, and everything. All this happens in an election year, and we already know this. I still think there's some people that are gun shy about jumping into the market.
Mhm.
Because of rates 1, 2, the economy is going to crash. The economy is going to crash. The sky's falling. And so there's that piece. But I'm still seeing multiple offers, offers coming in over asking. But I feel like it's price point specific. I think it's, up here in Michigan, it's a little different than North Carolina. But, I've got a house listed right now for $189,900. And
it's still on the market. Are you kidding me?
It just went on yesterday. So yeah, it just went on yesterday. So it's not going to last long.
It won't.
But then the funny thing is, and I wanted to talk to you about this on the luxury side is, I had another one that I listed at $600,000 in a prominent neighborhood here in Michigan. It was in Grosse Pointe, and I got one offer in 5 days, but we accepted the offer. It was an asking offer, and it made sense, and my sellers needed to sell, and it all worked out and made sense. But on the luxury side for you, because I know that's your wheelhouse, it's not mine, but it's yours. I'll sell anything, so it doesn't matter to me, and I know you will too. But the luxury side, what are you seeing on the luxury side?
So generally on the luxury side, so my median price point is around $850,000 to $900,000. And interest rates fluctuating up and down don't necessarily impact buyers in that price point as much. But what I do see is that it does impact them in the fact that a lot of buyers at that price point have a lot of money in the stock market, and the stock market generally will follow what's going on with the mortgage rates. So there are a lot of buyers who don't necessarily want to liquidate right now in order to purchase cash, because I do see cash, I would say 65% of the time. And so they're looking into putting, sometimes 30 to 50% down and then taking a loan out on the remainder. And so I will tell you, they're a little quiet right now. So everybody, just like you said, we all know mortgage rates are going to go down no matter who's elected in November. But it's still, I feel like the political climate right now it's unsettling for everybody, no matter which way. I'm not here to talk politics in any way, shape, or form, but it is unsettling for our country right now. And because of that, it is impacting people in many different ways, including the economy. So it was phenomenal for Powell to come out and have this, 0.5% reduction, first reduction we've seen of that size in many years. It's 16 years since it's been, we've seen that reduction. What people don't realize is that the mortgage rates had already adjusted prior to him making that announcement. So right after the announcement, it was so interesting to see the mortgage rates actually go up, right?
Oh, yes.
And so people are like, what's going on? But no matter what, I feel in most consumers' minds, they hear Powell say there's a reduction and they immediately assume that the mortgage rates are going to go down and it's a good time to buy. So no matter what actually happens, what I am telling my agents and people I coach is, it's about what consumers deem to be true. So if their cadence is, now Powell has come out with this incredible news, our economy is healthy, inflation is coming back to a place that we can all function better, it's a good time to buy, then you run with that. Yes, go ahead and tell them what's going on. It's your job to educate them as their realtor. But if they are feeling in their hearts, in their minds, and in their bank account, it's a good time to purchase, then purchase. So to circle back around and answer your question, our luxury business is not impacted as much when rates go up and down, but it is very much tied to what's going on in the money market, in the stock market, what's happening in that, because a lot of people have their cash tied in that.
Got it. So, and the funny thing is, it's kind of like how we say with prices, right? Like the market value. And that's kind of how I feel. The market is it's determined by the people. You're going to hit those markets where the only people that are really moving are the ones that have to move.
Correct.
Right? Jobs,
Yes.
Death, divorce, like it all happens, right?
The D's, right? Yes, all the D's.
Yeah. So that, but it's interesting on the luxury side where you say the stock market affects it more than the mortgage market, which
That
is a
has
very
been in my experience. There's no question about it, Jimmy.
yeah.
And so it's funny because a lot of my sellers will say, well, Chanel isn't cash king. And I say, honestly, in my opinion, not always. Because when somebody has some sort of mortgage that's tied to a home, it means for people, any person, but I find that the more money that an individual has in my world, the more that they value their time. So when they value their time to a certain extent, you put a lot of time when you take out a loan. When you have a mortgage on a property, the more time you put into it, the more you want that to actually come to fruition. So I say, if it's cash, somebody can just write a check or go ahead and have your cashier deposit. And they don't have a lot of time invested into this, meaning that they're more willing to walk away. So when I see that there is a mortgage tied to a transaction, I feel that more time is tied in for the buyers and they're more apt to see it through.
Love it. Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, so the way you're saying that is so spot on, because it is how the market is, and again, it market value. It's whatever is perceived, right? So, and again, I've had the same problem. People will come in with a cash offer on one of my listings, and they're like, "Well, it's cash, it's cash." I'm like, "Well, my guy's got 30 days to move into his next place, so
Right.
the speed doesn't matter to me. Right? I get it."
Mm-mm.
The amount matters to me, right?
The amount does. And how many times have you heard this? And I say this to my sellers, how much is my house worth? And I said, what are buyers willing to pay for it?
Yep.
And I don't mean to say that with a smirk and a grin, but of course, let's look at market value. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what time of year it is. But it is truly, I always say, I don't need to capture 100 buyers. I need to capture the one who sees the value where you see it and where it's aligned with the market. And so if you really hone it in on that and don't try to capture 1,000 buyers to come into a house, be very clear and concise about what your sellers want. No matter that price point, is it time that's important to them? Is it money that's important to them? And then which one is most important at that period of time in their life? And then really go along in that cadence.
Oh, I love that. Because there was an agent here in Michigan. He listed a house for $1.
No.
Yeah, he listed it for $1. Now, it caught some attention nationally. There was some stories and stuff done on it, and the news picked it up here. And then he ended up selling. It was an investment property. I think he ended up selling for $100,000 is what he ended up selling for. But he listed it for $1. He just like convinced this guy to do it. And they did it, and it was like he sold it for like $99,000 over his asking price or whatever. It just blew it out of the water. But yeah, he listed it for $1.
Well, it's people have to do what speaks to them. So that for me, 2024, Jimmy, has been a very transformative year for me because I have a big birthday coming up next week. And I always have had mortality on my mind just in general. I don't know if it's because I'm the oldest child. I don't know where this comes from, but time is very precious to me and it continues to be very precious to me. So I read a book close to the end of 2023, which I'm sure you've read, which is called 10X is Easier Than 2X.
Mm-hmm.
And it completely changed my life. So friends who are watching this, I will tell you, go and read the book, but just be aware that you will never look at life the same again.
It's amazing.
It is.
It's amazing. And you and I have talked several times, and like I told you, this was the year that I wanted to be more intentional with my time,
Yes.
more intentional with who I was doing business with, who I was spending time with, my family time. Like I wanted to just be more intentional with my time. And I've stuck to it for the most part, right? Like that's the hardest part is like in with what we do, between coaching and all that stuff. It's hard. We have to be more time blocked than people think because because people want our time, right? And so it's like, how do I make sure I'm intentional, right? Like, your son just came and jumped on your lap. My son was just texting me. So I'm like, buddy, you know what I do at 7:30 on Friday? You know where I'm at.
Talk to dad, right? Like he just does. I guarantee Preston knew when he came in, he's got a little of his mama in him. So he just wanted to come and say, hey,
Yeah.
but I love that we have the opportunity to work right now and that our children can also reach us. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, and in your past, so you were hitting on politics, and what people don't know is you were in politics before you even thought about real estate, right?
I did. I was a lobbyist in Oklahoma. I really loved being a lobbyist. So, do you remember that cartoon when you were growing up, How a Bill Becomes a Law?
Yes.
So my father's an attorney in Oklahoma, and law has always been, as a Libra, something that really speaks to me. It's very black and white. I feel that, there's so many things that are based around law that I can fully understand and I can grasp. So I went to college at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill with a political science background. So I graduated with a political science degree, and then I went back to the state of Oklahoma and became a lobbyist. And people say, Chanel, who did you lobby for? And I said, well, I wasn't in the position to pick and choose. I was with the firm, and I represented the groups who came in. And what was so interesting to me is I would love to say openly and out loud that the people whom we elect actually are the ones who make the laws, but they're not. And I always ask this question of my children. I say, who are the most powerful individuals in our country? And now they know the answer. What is the answer, Jimmy?
The lobbyist.
Lobbyists. Lobbyists are the most powerful individuals in our political climate in our country because they are the ones who make the laws. And so it was so fascinating to me. I started as a runner. I didn't just jump in and become a lobbyist.
Sure.
That's the pretty story. That's the glitter story. The real story is that I started as a runner. A runner is with the state of representatives, the human who literally runs the memos, because you can't actually email them because they're very confidential, runs the memos to all the representatives and the senators in the state capital of Oklahoma. So I put my running shoes on every single day. I went from the bottom floor all the way to the top floor. I met every representative. I met every senator. I met all their assistants. I met everybody who was included in that. And that is, by the way, as you also know, the way that you get things done is connecting with humans and getting to know them. And so once I did that, I seamlessly moved into lobbying, where, let me tell you, it is a little scary what's put into these bills, what people do not pay attention to, what people don't want you to see, and what gets passed in our country. It is unbelievable to me. And so if you really want to know what happens in our world of politics, go and look at the bills and go see what the lobbyists are up to.
All right, we got so I was supposed to be a social studies teacher. Like that was I was supposed to be, I was supposed to be a social studies teacher. So the government and history is always, it's always been interesting to me to do this stuff. The part that people don't understand, and I don't want to get like too political on everybody, but the part that I could never understand was how they attached everything to a bill.
They don't understand, right? How easy it is.
Yeah, and it's like, well, so and so didn't pass this bill. It's like, well, no, but did you read the other things that were attached to it? I wouldn't have passed it either, right? Like,
it is fascinating, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
really, really is fascinating. So, as much as the NAR settlement has brought a lot of things to light for consumers and for the real estate industry as of August 17th, I will say that it's been much more fluid. It's been very transparent. It's been very good for our industry, and I really appreciate that. Conversations are very different now. And in the state of North Carolina, we were one of the 12 or 13 states who had to have a buyer agency agreement in place prior to submitting an offer. So I feel like we didn't have as much to catch up on as a lot of people in the country. But 2024 as a realtor is about figuring out what your value is. It's about figuring out to whom you want to work with, and what time and effort and energy do you want to put in, and what do you want that final result to be. So I think 2024 is very transformative for a lot of people.
Yeah. And you're right. North Carolina, when I do my morning call, my 7:30 call, we have a bunch of agents from North Carolina, South Carolina on there. And when this whole NAR thing happened and everything switched, it was everybody in North Carolina was like, what's the big deal? Like,
right.
Okay, like,
Ann, thank you for joining the party. We really appreciate it. It's been a little lonely over here. Hey.
Yeah. Like, and then it's like, well, you guys in Michigan have had it so easy for so long. Like, well, we did. I don't know. But yeah. And to me, it just brought up a question yesterday. And this is, again, it goes back to who you surround yourself with matters. Right. And if you're out of the loop on what's happened with NAR and all those things, and some agents are, right. We had an agent reach out to us yesterday on one of our team listings and was like, is the seller paying buyer's compensation? Right. And we said, yes. And it was like, well, how much? I'm like, well, that's up to you to negotiate, not to me to negotiate. I'm not negotiating it for you.
Right.
Right. Like it's my listing, right? Like so it's our team listing. So I'm not gonna negotiate that for you. How good of a negotiator are you, right? So it's but the agent and I felt bad. She had no idea that
No.
she couldn't find this out and where it was at, and she was frustrated. I'm like, look, like is no one talking to you? Like, and again, there's information out there everywhere. And I think the NAR thing has been beat up so much, and there was so much false news early, right?
Oh, of course that there was.
Yeah.
People jump on the scarcity bandwagon and the fear bandwagon, and we just run it to the ground. Friends, let's pick ourselves up. Let's figure out truly what our value is. Let's move on to serving our clients. That's what we truly love to do. We all have servants' hearts, and let's just move on, right? Like, how much longer are we going to talk about this? Like, let's actually apply best practices to our business and move on from this.
Yeah. Yep. And again, treat your buyers like you do your sellers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Treat your buyers like you do your sellers. Have a consultation with them.
Yes.
Be a consultant to them. Stop being I was kind of talking with Barry Jenkins from my Lopo.
I love Barry. He's a great guy.
He's a great guy. And he and I were talking about this, and he's like, do you want fries with that house? He said, because that's what we were for so long, is just, I want to go see 123 Main Street. Okay, let's go see 123 Main Street. And he's like, do you want fries with that? I said, wow, that's I like that actually. Because we were that for a while.
We were that, right. And so there are so many realtors who come to me and they say, Chanel, how did this impact your business? What are you doing to build your business? And I say, this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to be very clear about to whom you want to serve, what your time is worth, and what you want to build. I feel like this is a start button, a restart button for so many of us. So I was grinding like so many of us did, especially during COVID and after. And I just had to put the stop button on for a moment and really look at my life. I had to look at my health. I had to look at whom I was spending my time with. I had to look at who I was, like you were saying, surrounding myself with. And that for me started last year. And it's been this beautiful transformation. I'm the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, Jimmy, in 2024. And it's all about consistency. And it's so funny because for health purposes, I really was not taking care of myself, not for 1 year. I'm talking 5-6 years, Jimmy. 5-6 years of not sleeping well, of working all hours of the night, of giving up my weekends. I mean, there are days, weeks, months. I don't remember what happened with my family. I can't tell you what my boys were up to. I was disconnected from my husband, who's the love of my life. I'm like, this is not worth it anymore. So I had to have the strength and tenacity and belief within myself to just stop and say, you know what, let me just take a look at what's going on with me. And yes, my bank account was full, my business was full, but who was paying for that? My family, my health, my well-being. So I just had to put a stop to it. And I will tell you, if anybody takes anything away from this, what I want you to really take away from this is that you do not have to compromise anything to live your best life. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to compromise your business to have great health. You don't have to compromise your health to have a great business. You can actually have it all if you decide what is important to you, what time you give it to it, what value you give to it, and just be consistent with it. It is that simple, isn't it, Jimmy?
It is. And I was going to bring that up. I've been following, we follow each other on social medias and all the things, but like your health journey, and I'm trying to figure the same thing out, right? Like I had to have a major surgery in last December, where they removed half my colon, right? Not because of anything I did wrong, but probably because I just didn't take care of myself, right? So it's like, but then again, it goes back to like, how much time do I want to spend with my family?
Yes.
I'm 51 years old. I'm not getting any younger. It's like that doesn't. I don't get any. You don't go backwards in time, right? So how do you take advantage of the time you got? So your health journey, you started this year, right? Like that with
32 days ago, Jimmy.
So yeah. So like, what's that? So one question is, what made you come to that conclusion of like, I just needed to get healthy?
So I was on a mission after reading 10X is easier than 2X. I realized that I literally had to make a decision to eliminate 80% of my life. So instead of going wide on everything, I was going to choose the 20% of my vision and go deep on the 20%. What I then realized very quickly is that my goals, I should say my health and my vision, it couldn't keep up with my goals. My energy could not keep up with everything that I wanted to really go 10X in on. And that made me take a step back and go, you know what? I could 2X it all day long. All of us can 2X it all day long. But it actually is much easier to do 10X. But that meant I had to be really mindful about what I was putting into my body, who I was spending my time with, what was my energy level. So if I have this gorgeous vision and I'm very, very clear about what I want to do, and the time I want to do it in, what I realized that I was exhausted by 3 o'clock every afternoon. I was going through 6, 7, 8 cups of coffee just to keep up with myself, Jimmy, not even with anybody else, but with myself. And then at night, I always call her the evil queen. The evil queen pops up in my mind. Is like, what did you really do today? Did you really do this? And why did you do that? And who'd you do that with? And I was beating myself up. That is exhausting, Jimmy. So I had to really bring self-love, self-help, and make some really big decisions. And so my buddy Phil Stringer, we were doing we ran into each other. We were doing events. And so I met him in Dallas last year at an event. And then I saw him at another event in Michigan. And then I saw him in another event later on in Miami. And every time I saw him, he looked clearer. His energy was higher. His stamina was higher. His vision was everything. Just every single time I saw him, it was just doing this. And so this last time when I saw him, I said, Phil, what is going on with you, dude? Like, what Red Bull are you drinking? What is happening? And he said, Chanel, I know a guy. And I said, you know a guy? And he said, I know a guy. He said, he just works by referral. He's not for everybody and everyone's not for him, but I'm going to connect you two together and it'll work or it won't work. So he connected me with his guy who is a fitness trainer, Chris, out of California. And Chris and I had a conversation and Chris said, okay, Chanel, tell me what's going on. How are you feeling? Why did you call me? What's going on with your family? What's going on with your life? What's the next 30 days look like to you? What's the next 20 years look like to you? And we had a very honest conversation. And then after we discussed it, he said, I feel like we'd be a really good match. And I said, I do too. And he said, by the way, here are the 20 vitamins I want you to take a day. This is exactly the fitness regimen that I want you to do. I drink celery juice every single morning. I press it and I drink 8 ounces first thing in the morning. Then I go through my cadence of my vitamins. I go through my fitness regime and I have to take pictures every 2 weeks. So even though he's in California, I send him all the forms of my exercises every single day. And I've just jumped into this journey with him. So I took the photos, which let me tell you, that was the most difficult part as a woman, I would assume as a man too, is taking pictures of yourself in a bikini in September. I'm like, this is painful right now. Like, I just can't. It was in August, actually. And then 2 weeks later, after I thought I was killing myself, right? I'm drinking bone broth. I'm doing my celery juice. I'm taking my vitamins. I'm working out very mindfully. I took the pictures after 2 weeks and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Did I do anything these last 2 weeks? Seriously? Then I took them the next 2 weeks and I'm like, oh, wow. I only drink a cup of coffee a day. I'm clear as a bell, Jimmy. I'm sleeping so well. Now things that very much overwhelm me, I'm like, oh, I can do that on my list. Oh, I can do that on my list. I'm just clear. So I always say there may not be this massive, huge shift, but it's little things that move the needle in your life that make the biggest changes in your life. It's the little things.
Love it. You're right. Atomic habits, right? It's little things move you closer to or farther away from your dreams, and not even your dreams, just like your well-being. And how do I get better? And again, like I really love your analogy of I took the picture and then 2 weeks later I took another one and was like, I didn't do anything. And then, but 2 weeks after that was like, oh, wait a minute. Now I got it. Right.
Well, I'm trying to reverse 6 years of abusing myself and my body. And I'm like, I just expected in 2 weeks to be done. Yeah. I'm a high achiever. I'm a type A. I get things done. It's a goal and I hit it. And after 2 weeks of literally doing every single thing that Chris said, this is going to help you with your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And I'm like, I don't see anything. Like, I feel a couple things, but I don't know. Consistency, friend. It's consistency.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks after that, I'm like, whoa, hey, look at that. And it's just the little things, like I said. And so I always say, especially as a mom, I have 3 shifts every single day. I have the morning shift when I get up myself. I do my meditation. I do everything I do for myself. And then I take care of the kids and get them out the door. Then I go and do my work with my clients, with my team, with my coaching clients. That's my second shift. And then my third shift is when I come home and I spend time with my family. I finish the laundry. I, help Ford with dinner. Ford makes dinner a lot more than I do, and then you spend that time with family and the boys. That third shift for me, it was getting lost in the shuffle. I was exhausted. I wasn't present for my third shift, and I didn't look forward to my third shift. So I will tell you, after these 32 days, I'm very present, I'm very aware, and I'm very here to enjoy that third shift. And that's been the biggest shift for me.
I love that. And like, to put this into a business perspective, right? Like, this, I want people to really understand and listen to what you just said, right? Like the 2-week thing, you could have quit after those first 2 weeks.
That's right.
It's not working. Look, it doesn't work. It's not working. I drink celery juice every morning. For God's sakes. Like, it's not working. This is dumb. I don't want to do this anymore. But you hung in there and said, all right, 2 more weeks. Right. And then it was like, all right, now I can see this. And I think that's what we miss in business so much is we don't give stuff enough time to work. And especially in real estate, I feel I just had a conversation with Kurt on Tuesday, and we talked about this exact same thing. We get caught in it, right? I'm trying to find stuff for my team, and I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do, let's try this system. And then I'm like, wait a minute. All right. I said, I'm sick of like trying to plug these things in and them not work and do all the stuff that was not working and things that work or don't work. Go back to basics. Let the basics run, do them consistently, and things will start to work out. And we do have some comments. Sandy said, yes, consistency with discipline is key.
It is. I
Yeah.
agree.
And she also said, this is what we were talking about. And Sandy also said, we want results right away.
Sandy, that's it. I think I call it dopamine hits. I talk about dopamine hits a lot. That's why we're so in tune with social media, because those platforms are really built to give us immediate gratification. As realtors, we get immediate gratification multiple times during our transaction. So we have essentially trained ourselves that we do something and we see the result immediately. But I will tell you, that's not always the way. And so I would say to everyone listening, stick to it. What are your non-negotiables? And keep them simple, friends. They do not have to be difficult. They do not have to be complicated. Keep them very simple. But as Sandy said, be consistent with your non-negotiables and you will see the results. You will absolutely see the results. I used to think, I go into my calendar every Friday for the week ahead, and I've gotten much better at going out. I'm no Austin Cheviron. I don't do a full year, but I can go at least a quarter in advance. But I go in Friday for the week ahead just to reconfirm everything that's on my calendar. And I realized that if I really make at least 60% of my calendar items that move the needle for me, that my life exponentially shifts toward my vision. 60%, not 100%, friends. That's too much. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself. If you really, really focus on those prolific quality output items, the items that really move the needle in your business, 60% of the time, you will see consistent results that will help you hit your goals. That is the key.
I love it. It's true. And it is just staying on task over time, finding the tasks that you enjoy too, right? Because that's the other thing about real estate. We have the capability to do things we like to do.
You don't have to do everything. And I talk about the ideal client a lot. And if you have no idea what an ideal client is, please reach out to me. Because when I really narrowed into whom my ideal client is, so essentially, whom is that ideal client, either on the listing side or the buyer side, that is your absolute dream client. Chanel, what are you talking about? I get that a lot. I said, you can actually choose who you want to work with. You can actually be very mindful and intentional with your marketing, with your branding. with your activities every single day whom you want in your life and work with on a regular basis. When I did that, Jimmy, and decided that, by marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody, when I really honed in on who aligns with me and whom I want to work with, my entire business shifted big time.
I love that. And again, we talk about this with social media a lot. We want to go blast out to everybody and advertise to everyone.
Sure.
But the problem is who are you attracting? Like who is your social media and who are your advertising attracting? And do you even want to work with those people that you're trying to attract?
That's the thing. I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit, Jimmy. I don't think that we dive into ourselves enough and really allow ourselves the opportunity to build the business that we want, that really is committed to the life that we want to live. I think that we create our life around our business, but that's a choice. That is an absolute choice. Instead, have your non-negotiables with your life, and you create your business to support your life, not your life to support your business. Those are two very different things. Very different things.
Oh, I love that. And yes, it's so true. Like and it just goes back to the basics of doing things consistently, right? And showing up but again, taking care of yourself along the way. You can do, and to some people, I think listening to this are probably going to think like, how do I do all the things? But what I want to be clear on, and I know what your message is, and I know what I want my message to be, don't do all of the things.
Stop doing all the things. I'm going to keep it very simple for our listeners today. I want you to be very mindful every single day of the three things that you want to complete in your business before 1 p.m. Every single day. What are the three things, your non-negotiables, that you will complete before 1 p.m.? If you do that 5 days a week, your entire business is going to shift and change. Because by choosing those three things, that means that you're taking time to actually be mindful about what you want to build, who you want to build it with, how you want to build it. And it can be super overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. Just bring it in. What are those three things that you want to get done before 1 p.m.? And then if you go back to the Friday before and you're looking at your week ahead and you're like, okay, today it's going to be these three things. And this next day, we all have admin work that we have to do, right? We have phone calls we have to return. We have emails we have to go ahead and get out. That's the 40% of your week, but the 60% needs to be those needle moving items that are really going to make the shift. But if you just focus on those three things before 1 p.m. every single day and be very mindful in your vision and your big picture, that's where you start seeing those changes and shifts. That is so huge, Jimmy. And I just don't want everybody to overcomplicate things when you don't have to.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent too. So I'm married and we have kids but the hard part for women is that, like you said, that third shift, right?
The third shift.
Especially for your moms that are listening, right? Like it's like, as a dad, like we have it pretty easy. Like if I take my kid to the grocery store, they're like, "Oh, look at he brought his kid to the grocery store," right?
That's precious. That's
yeah.
Bless his heart, as we like to say. Bless
yeah. And now, if you go to the grocery store and don't bring him, you're like, "Oh, she left her kid at home again."
Yeah.
Like what happened? Oh, I wanted to.
You gotta check the guilt, especially to my mom friends out there. Check the guilt at the door. It has no space in your life. You're doing the very best that you can do in the place that you're in. And if you will please, as flight attendants always love to say, could you please put your oxygen mask on first before you start putting it on those next to you? That was so hard for me to wrap my head around. I cannot even tell you. I'm like, no. I've got to get their masks on first, make sure that they're okay. And then I'm fine. I'll take care of myself. If you're not okay, nobody is okay. You're the driving force in your family. You are the driving force. You must take time to care for yourself. This was the most difficult thing for me to wrap my head around psychologically, was putting my health first. I felt guilty. How messed up is that, Jimmy? I felt guilty putting my health first. I'm like, that means that I may not be able to, all the things in the first and the second and the third shift.
Yeah.
But what I realized, by putting my health first, putting myself first in certain aspects, it allowed me to give so much more of myself to my first shift, my second shift, and my third shift.
It's so good.
Game changer for me.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's true. And that's one thing we all probably put in the back seat is our health, right? Like that's the easiest thing. And we lie to ourselves all the time. Like I eat good. And I'm like, no, you don't. I watch what you eat. You don't eat good, right? Like, I don't. I say it to myself. Like I ate good yesterday, and then I think back to what I ate. I'm like, oh no, that wasn't good at all. Like.
You want to know how delusional I was? Last year, I said to Ford, did you just decide to shrink all of the clothes that you're washing of mine? Did you just shrink all of them? And he's like, what are you talking about? I literally thought that my clothes shrunk. I'm like, no, that's a no. That's a no. No, I was just not fitting into my clothes anymore. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not a small guy, so it's when the clothes don't shrink. I'll just
That's it.
So you put it on and then you take it off and you look at the tag what size is this? It's a shirt I've had for a year. I know what size it is. It fit a year ago. It doesn't fit anymore now. So it is true, but that is one thing we always put in the back, and because we lie to ourselves more than we lie to anybody else, and we're all liars, right? We're all liars, and we lie to ourselves more than we lie to anybody else, and because we do say stuff like that, right? We do say, well, I ate good, and or I spent, because then look at like quality time, right? And we get caught up on social media because we look at the Johnnies and the Joes, and we want to be doing the things that whatever everybody else is doing, which may or may not be true anyway, right? Like
that's right.
Like, it may or may not be real anyway.
It's not healthy for our well-being, especially when we're in a darker space, Jimmy, to then go on social media and start comparing ourselves to others. It's just not, it's not positive. It's not healthy for us.
No, it's not. And again, it's one thing because we beat ourselves up too. And I think in our industry, and then we say, well, somebody will have 3 or 4 sales and they put them on social media and they're like, well, how did that person sell anything? Like, and we don't know if they did or not.
You're right.
We nobody's going to check. It's one of the things I can say about real estate is I'm the #1 real estate agent in the state of Michigan that lives at my house, right? Like I can say whatever I want about real estate. Like I can just make up stuff and say I'm the #1 real estate agent in the state of Michigan and that lives at my house. And until my wife gets her license, and then I'm screwed. So, but I think just because we compare ourselves to others, we look at what everybody else is doing, and again, stop doing that. 1, 2, get a hold of your business. And I think that was one of the biggest things that your message today is like, get a hold of your business and do the things that matter to you, that move the needle and affect you in a positive way, and stop doing all the other stuff.
That's it. Just cut out all the other nonsense. So a lot of people come to me and say, Chanel, I don't know what I want my business to be. And so this is the question that I ask them. Nobody knows when you're no longer to be on this earth, right? Nobody knows this, but time is directly linked to mortality. So I say, ask yourself questions now that you will probably ask yourself when you're on your deathbed. When you are about to leave this earth, did I do what I wanted to do? Did I love the way I wanted to love? Did I live? Did I have the adventure? Did I have fun? What are all the things? And then apply that to every day. Every day. Start asking yourself those questions now. If you start asking those questions now, the decisions you make, the people you choose to spend time with, what is important to you and what's not important to you changes when you realize that time is not forever. And so when you do that, it shifts everything in your life. Instead of waiting until those final days of asking all those questions, ask those questions now. And when you do that, things become very clear what's important and not important in your life. People think it's very complicated. It's not. You're just not asking yourself the right questions.
And getting clear, right? Like, I think that's one of the most important things that we all have to do from time to time is just get very clear with what you want to do, and then work backwards. I think that's one of the messages that Austin talks about a lot too. Is like get very clear on what the end looks like, and then work backwards, right? Like, what does it look like? Where do I want to be in 20 years? Now I know that's a hard question to answer, right? But stop looking at it as like I want a certain amount of money, or I want. what do you want to be doing? Right? Like, do I just want to be sitting on the beach? Do I want to be fishing? Right? Like, if that's what you want to do, if I want to be golfing every day, okay, I can say that's what I want to do. I want to be able to golf whenever I want, go wherever I want, whenever I want. Now I can work backwards and say, all right, how do I do that? Right? How do I get to that piece? But you have to get very clear on what that end result is.
You have to get clear. So when you take that very first step in becoming clear, and the quickest way I know to become clear is to understand, like I said, that time does have an end to it.
It does.
It is linked to mortality. And when you link it to that and you start asking yourself those questions, one thing that I came to very quickly this past year is that I don't have enough fun in my life, Jimmy. I work a lot.
You?
I know, right? I'm such a fun person, but I wasn't creating those periods in my life where I could actually have fun. I'm like, no, I'll have fun after I do this. I'll have fun after I reach this. I'll have fun after this is done. Time doesn't care about that. Time just goes very quickly. So if you become clear and concise, and then you know what your big picture is, then when you're looking at your calendar for the coming week, the coming month, the coming year, it is very clear. Does this fit into my big picture or does it not fit into my big picture? Are these people I'm about to spend time with, are they my ideal clients? Are they people I want to spend time with? Start valuing who you are and what you bring to the table more. Then decisions become very easy. Then you build up your personal self-confidence. When you start building up your personal self-confidence, you start attracting people who align with what that vision is. It is incredible to me how quickly, concisely, and easily this starts happening for people. But it has to start with you.
You left me speechless, and that never happens.
I don't know if Chrissy would agree with that, but yes.
That's too funny. Yeah, she probably wouldn't. But so the amazing part is, let me ask you this: how? Yeah, now I know you made a decision this year to do all these things, but how did you decide to business wise? How did you make that decision to like whittle everything else out? And I want to do this thing.
I was very clear after going through asking my questions to myself and being very clear about what I want my big picture to be. Then I realized that for me, it really fell into 3 categories that I really wanted to focus on. One of them is time. So the time I spend with people and what I do with my time. My health was the second thing, and relationships was my third thing. So when I narrowed it down to those 3 things, I was able to very clearly and concisely make decisions based on the firm I wanted to align with, the people I wanted to work with, and my personal health. And so when you just narrow down to those things, for me, my vision is very clear. Because my vision is very clear, when somebody asks for my time, I call them and have a conversation deeper. Is this not worth my time? I don't want it to seem like an ego thing, but are we aligning in the vision and what we're going to do during that period of time? I stopped saying yes to everything. I don't need the acknowledgement from people anymore. So I used to look at when people ask me to do things, it made me feel good, Jimmy. I'm like, oh, they see me. They want to spend time with me. I feel acknowledged. I'll say yes, yes, yes. I started giving my time away right and left, whether it aligned with my vision or not. So when I became very clear about my vision, what my time was, the relationships I wanted to build in my health, it's a very easy yes or no. You're a very simple yes for me, Jimmy, always.
Well, I appreciate that. Now we had one of our users on here say, time is limited. Enjoy your time, fun time.
That's right. It's true.
It is true. And you know, we talked on off camera before we started, and you said you don't know this mortality thing with you. You don't know if that's because you're the oldest child or whatever. See, I'm the opposite. I'm the youngest child. Like everything's going to last forever. It doesn't really matter. Right?
There you go. Right.
Yeah, I'm the youngest. So the rules don't apply to me. I do whatever I want, whenever I want. Time lasts forever. It's all fine. It's all good. That's why, you know.
But I love being around personalities like yours, Jimmy, because personality types such as myself can be very serious and take life very serious. And there's a time and place for that. But there also is a time and needed place to have fun and to enjoy life and to look at the blessings every single day. I mean, the fact that we're here today we woke up today, we're breathing. Like that in and of itself, I think people take for granted because there are many people who did not wake up today. And I
Yeah.
think that there are those simple little things of life to enjoy and to embrace that make all the difference in the world.
Yep. Yep. And my neighbor asked me the other day, I was taking the garbage out, and my neighbor's like, "Hey, how are you doing? How are things going?" I'm like, "Look, I'm on this side of the dirt. I'm good. Like
Right?
I'm good. I'm good. Everything's great."
It is so
Yeah.
true. It is
I
so
woke,
true.
I woke up
Simplify,
this
right?
morning and everything else is. I woke up this morning, everything else is gravy. I'm good.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But we like to complicate things, don't we, Jimmy?
Oh gosh, we do, and again, it goes, it always goes back to fundamentals, and it doesn't really matter if it's business, if it's health, if it's life, if it's whatever. It always goes back to fundamentals, and this year I've one of a friend of mine that I grew up with. We knew each other since we were kids. I mean, like middle school kids, right? We were like 10, 12, 13 years old, but he passed away this year. Cancer found, it, but that stuff starts to resonate. Then you start like, well, we're both 51, and it's just like,
Whoa.
it's that like kind of punches you in the face a little bit, right? Goes back to then time, who we were spending it with, how do you want to do it? When you were 30, nobody thought about this stuff. Like when I was 20, I didn't think about anything. Like nobody thought about like, wow, this is happening. And now the older you get, then things start to happen and around you, and you do start to think about these things, and that it is eye-opening. And and I said, because and you have the same thing. Your son's away at school. Like you have an older son that's away at school. Mine is 14 hours away from me. And Chrissy said, we have to spend time with. We need to spend time with Jack when he's home. We need to spend time, and I agree. But I said, listen, it's about the value of the time. It's not the length of time. It's like we have to value that time, because look. You grew up in Oklahoma. You lived in Florida. Now you live in North Carolina, right? So that's what happens with our kids. We do all this stuff, and then we let them fly away.
Oh, I know. As heartbreaking as it is, but my parents are flying in from Oklahoma today. So, it's beautiful to reconnect. And you're right. We don't see each other all the time, but when we do, the quality of that time together is what really counts and what really matters. And I will say, it doesn't matter where you are in your career, what your age is. It is never too late to be very clear about what you want to be mindful about. And, people are like, oh, it's too late for me. It's never too late. It's never too late to really be clear and concise and mindful about just be at peace, right? When that time comes, did you spend the time the way that you want to?
Yep. And it's never too early.
Thank you.
It's never too early because we do, like I said, when our 20s, we were like, just do whatever, it's never too early to start living intentionally either.
You're right about that. Absolutely right. It's so true. Even though my 22-year-old does not always listen to that.
No. Yeah. Jack's 20. He doesn't listen to that either. There's stories, but I had stories when I was 22 that we can't talk about on the air. So,
we all have those stories, Jimmy.
We all have those stories, and it's the thing that cracks me up is the parents that think that their kids don't do the same things they did, and I'm like, well, what were you doing when you were 20?
Right. Again, right? Bless their hearts.
So I appreciate everything that I appreciate our friendship, obviously, and everything that you're doing with Cheviron Coaching is amazing. It's awesome to watch you grow. And getting to know you on a much deeper level too. So that is always our friendship. I appreciate it.
Same.
And look, the knowledge is out there. I feel like, Chanel, where can everybody find you? It's Heart and Olive, right?
Heart and Olive. So Instagram is truly the best place. Jimmy, if you'll pass that out for me, it's Chanel Hart-D'Aprix, DAPRIX is where you can find me on Instagram. Definitely go to chevironcoaching.com and jump in with us. We meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. except for our rest week. So 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks of the month, we meet at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, and you're going to hear from the best of the best of best practices for your business and your life. So I would love to see everybody there. Jimmy, you know that you have a very special place in my heart. Love you and your family, and I really appreciate the time with you today.
Yeah, love you too. Same thing, the family. Stay safe first of all.
Thank you.
Stay out of that weather, and And for those of you that don't know, I don't know if you said this on air or not, but the coyote's running through the front yard today.
Yeah, there was just a coyote just hanging out, in the woods of Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Well, keep the kids inside maybe for a little while.
A little bit, especially the little one you saw.
Yeah, you'll see him out there. He'll be throwing sticks to the coyote, probably. Have him trained up just like his mom does. His mom would.
Oh my goodness! Yes, that's another story, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, again, Chanel, I appreciate the time. We'll get you back on. This hour goes by fast as usual. So I appreciate the time. See you all next Friday on the Elite Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for joining me.